Upside down you turn me, says this flatfish while its reflexes are being examined. This type of quick checkup for scoring the presence or absence of natural animal reflexes and external injury has become a relatively cheap scientific method to evaluate fish vitality after being caught in a net and handled on deck. This method is called Reflex Action Mortality Predictor, or RAMP. It generates a condition index that relates a fish's vitality to stressors such as exposure times during gear deployment and air exposure. RAMP makes it possible to predict fish welfare or vitality status, as well as the fate of the fish after being discarded. The RAMP method relies on scoring body movements and body discoloration, which are subjective measures. Because these are an abstraction and a categorized interpretation of what can be seen, this method may not be as accurate as measuring with a tool such as a yardstick or a scale. This is particularly true if different people with different experiences are doing the scoring. Belgian researchers from Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, or ILVO for short, tested the reliability of this method. 3 researchers scored 304 common plaice after 17 trawls with the research vessel Simon Stevens. For scoring reflexes, 2 scales were printed on the score sheet, categorical and continuous. The categories were absent, scored as 0, weak, scored as 1, and strong, scored as 2. The continuous scale was a tagged analog visual or TVAS scale. This consists of a value between 1 and 10 indicated on a 10 centimeter bar that is split into 3 equally sized sections. The sections are labeled weak, moderate, and strong. Sebastian was the principal investigator, Christian was the head research technician, and Peter was a master's student. They all gathered around a water-filled container where another colleague handled each fish according to a strict protocol. Each fish was independently scored for 6 reflexes. Each observation lasted no longer than 5 seconds. These particular reflexes were selected because they were clearly visible to the observers without having to handle the fish themselves. Before each reflex assessment, a training sheet with pictograms was given to each of the observers and read aloud. The BODYFLEX reflex is scored by holding the fish with the ventral side up on the palm of a flat hand. The BODYFLEX is scored as absent if there is no active movement and the fish remains limp. The BODYFLEX should be scored as weak if the tail moves slightly, but not beyond the plane of the hand. The BODYFLEX is scored as moderate if the tail flexes beyond the plane of the hand. The body may move in a spastic flexion, or it may slowly slip off the hand. The BODYFLEX should be scored as strong if the fish actively tries to curl its head and tail towards each other, or if it quickly slips off the hand. The righting reflex is scored by holding the fish belly up on 2 hand palms, then releasing it underwater. The righting reflex is scored as absent if the fish drifts and sinks passively to the bottom of the container. The righting reflex is scored as weak if the fish appears stunned but does right itself very slowly. The righting reflex is scored as moderate if the fish appears stunned but starts to turn after some delay. Here the fish rotates quickly. The righting reflex is scored as strong if the fish quickly and actively rotates underwater. For the HEADCOMPLEX reflex test, the fish is held out of the water and the movement of the mouth and operculum are observed. HEADCOMPLEX is scored as absent if there is no movement of operculum and/or the mouth. HEADCOMPLEX is scored as weak if the fish opens and closes its mouth and/or operculum 1 time in a span of 5 seconds. HEADCOMPLEX is scored as moderate if the fish opens and closes its mouth and/or operculum more than once, but with a delay. HEADCOMPLEX is scored as strong if the fish immediately opens and closes its mouth and/or operculum without any delay. To test the TAILGRAB reflex, the researcher first holds the fish's tail firmly between thumb and index finger, then releases the fish. Tail grab is scored as absent if the fish makes no swimming movement when its tail is held and it remains motionless upon release. Tail grab is scored as weak if the fish exhibits no swimming movement when its tail is held, but it does swim away upon release. Tail grab is scored as moderate if the fish actively moves its body when its tail is held, but it does not succeed in freeing itself. Tail grab is scored as strong if the fish moves vigorously enough to free itself from the researcher's grip.
Eén, twee, drie, vier, vijf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.